kind of hop along and hop along, trying to put that shoe cover on and basically doing the footsie dance. I got my right foot in, I got my left foot in. Here we go again. Hello again, PCQI. Welcome to All About Compliance channel. In today's topic, we're going to be discussing shoe covers and what to wear. When considering shoe covers, first you got to take a look at your classification if you are doing a dry process or a wet process. So dry process normally is in production of powder forms, and then you have your wet process, which is obviously it's wet, right? Now, if it's a dry process, it's quite simple. Obviously, you're going to have your disposable shoe cover, if that's what you're considering. Now, when you're considering disposable shoe cover, you got to take a look at the application part of it for your personnel. Are you just going to have them take one from the bin and cross their legs while they're standing up and kind of hop along and hop along, trying to put that shoe cover on, and then putting that right foot down and then doing it on the left side and basically doing the footsie dance. I got my right foot in, I got my left foot in, all of those things. Now that's a little bit on the safety side. Now you can have your teammate fall over, hurt themselves, and now you got a bigger problem. Okay, so what we've seen typically is you would have a chair, right? This is a typical application where that person sits to be able to apply that. Now, depending on your risk level, okay, you have the A zone to B zone crossover, where you have there's a line or a box where the chair is with yellow markings on the floor, where you have your right foot and you put sitting down. Okay, let me go back. You're sitting down, and then you take your right foot and you put your shoe cover, you cross it over the B zone, and then you do the same thing for the left and do that way. So one of the things you need to consider is, depending on your process or your risk level process. Now, some application, they have a bench, a metal bench, a stainless steel bench, where you physically have to go over, right? Your legs has to physically go over that barrier or that bench to be able to complete the process of putting it on, crossing it over, putting it on, crossing it over, and going through the rest of your process in your PPE application. Okay? So now this is only for shoe cover, right? So there's other steps we're not gonna cover, but this is just for shoe cover. No pun intended, by the way. So now the other part of it is you also have automatic or mechanically operated dispensers, where you hold on to that dispenser and you step in and automatically wrap your foot, right, and apply the shoe cover, and you can do that on both sides. So if you are looking at a dry process, that's very, very simple to do. Now the wet process, on the other hand, now you have other things that you're considering for that. Listeria is one of those, as well as Salmonella and other pathogens. So on the wet process, when you're doing the cover part of it, make sure your shoe cover, right, is for wet application. I have been to facilities where the shoe cover is for dry process. Now you have all of that liquid and mucks. Now it just doesn't work. Now you're gonna need to consider in this part having a shoe cover that's either reusable or washable, if you're considering that, or it's a wet process single-use shoe cover. Depending on your program, the single-use shoe cover is preferred, right? So now you're looking at it, you're going to take it to senior management, and they're going to look at cost. So they're going to want you as a PCQI consider reusable shoe covers or boot covers, or even perhaps issuing a rubber boots. Okay? Now you're going to have to then consider that, and perhaps what I recommend as a PCQI, create a hazard analysis of that application. What I mean by that is, let's go back to the single-use disposable. So your hazard there, once you have utilized that boot cover, you basically will dispose of it and you don't have to worry about anything else. Now the reusable washable option, you're going to have to then take a look at that and look at the flow of personnel coming from production and then going to utilize the restroom or the facilities, going back, right? Assuming they're not taking it off, okay? Or the cafeteria. You're probably thinking, okay, there is something wrong with this. Okay. Obviously, hello, right? So now you're gonna have to then take a look at that traffic coming back from the other zone. Do you need a boot cleaner, a boot washer? Now let's say you obtain one of those as part of this exercise. You got to make sure you have SSOPs prepared for the boot brush scraper cleaner, okay? The machine, I'm talking about the equipment, and the rubber boots or the reusable boot covers or shoe covers, okay? So you have to consider this as a PCQI. Your shoe cover that is reusable and washable has to be then washed and cleaned. So you have to prepare your SSOPs for that, including your sanitizers and all of your cleaning chemicals. Now let's not forget the shoe brush scraper mechanism. And if you're going to consider those, please don't get those ones that bolts on the ground, because you're going to need to clean underneath. There's a lot of nooks and crannies into that part of it. Get the one that you can that stand alone, so to protect the safety of personnel. You don't want people falling, kind of hopping along and things like that, so they can actually brace themselves just for safety, okay? So as a PCQI, sometimes we just really think about preventive controls to protect the food. Other process that we're tasked to perform, we also need to start thinking the practicality of the activity to the persons that's going to be affected by. So in this case, it's our teammates, and it's also us when we're going in and out. Now, as a PCQI, you're also going to need to consider, the entering and exiting from the production zone. So one of the emails I receive is if they can just leave the boots or the shoe cover on throughout those process, like after production, going to the restroom, going through that process of re-cleaning and doing all of those things, or going to the cafeteria, right? So what I recommend for that is no, right? The risk of contamination is too high for that to occur, of somebody going into the cafeteria, walking around with their PPE on basically, and then going back to that zone, right? Same thing with the restroom. We all know the restroom is the filthiest, right, in the facility because of the activities that are happening there. So guess what? It's a big NO for me. Now, this is your process. So if you are looking at that to appease the personnel traffic and people's feelings of, I have to bend over, and they have all of these justification for them not to change their boot covers or their boots at that point, and they don't want to go through those changes and applications. Well, you better prepare those other cleaning and sanitation activities before they re-enter your production area, right? As a PCQI, that's your main responsibility, okay? So, anyways. So for me, at the end, the conclusion is what I highly recommend, depending on your process. I prefer the single use, because then I don't have to worry about SSOPs, for this process or this process for my boot cleaner or for my rubber boots that are reusable. But we also then, senior management, just be prepared as a PCQI that you're going to have some pushback because of cost. Obviously, on the wet process with the disposable single use boot covers, they're very costly. They range into the tens of dollars, right, per day per person. So the consideration of having just issuing rubber boots or reusable washable shoe covers, it's very practical at that point on the cost wise. Okay, so the next point I want to add to this for boot covers and shoe covers, now this is specifically for wet process. Now this is also depends on your traffic, your process flow. So if you have some facilities I have visited that are issued these type of footwear, they would remove their street shoes and they would wear a company issued rubber boots and then go through their process that day. So there's a lot of ways to be considered for this process. Obviously, if you are doing the shoe cover, it's more practical. You don't have to take off your shoes. You just kind of move on through your day and through your activities and go that way. The other part is if you are issuing the rubber boots as an option, they have to remove their shoes. Then you have to have your designated area for that, for the shoes to be issued to them and basically put them on. And are they gonna turn the boots at the end of the day or at the end of the shift, and so they can get sanitized, or are they gonna store them in their lockers? So you have a lot of things to consider when you're doing your hazard analysis when it comes to footwear contamination consideration for this process. But if you need some further assistance, kindly contact us, info@consultairinc.com. Leave some comment below so we can address them. Email us. We appreciate your input and also your support. So that's it for now, PCQI. Have a great day. Contact us. And don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Thanks again, PCQIs. Have a good one.